Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
KDVR-TV, KWGN-TV. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Evan Krugel with KDVR-TV. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. How do you hear us?
I hear you loud and clear, Kjell. Thank you. Kjell, why don't we start with you? This is your second trip to space. How does it feel to be back up there?
It is amazing to be back up here. You know, I describe this opportunity of getting to fly in space as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and to get to do it a second chance, to get to do it a second time is absolutely incredible. It feels a little bit like coming home. You know, we spent a considerable amount of time up here in 2015, and to come back to all the familiar sights and sounds, to get to float again, to see the Earth from this perspective is amazing.
Kjell, I have to give you a quick shout out from my father-in-law, Michael Yaron, who I know you studied with. He says hello from Earth.
That's awesome. I had no idea. Please give him and everyone my best. That's amazing.
I will. And Kjell, I know you went to medical school here in Colorado. Maybe describe the difference between being a doctor in space and being a doctor on the ground. What's the biggest difference up there?
Well, I think just starting with the similarities, you know, you have to be prepared for potential things going wrong, and to help, you know, on the ground to help people that come into the emergency department, up here to help my crewmates. But I think probably the biggest difference is that, you know, up here we have been screened and examined, and so when we launch, we really want our crews to be in the best shape possible so that we don't take problems onto the space station. And we have a small set of equipment and medications, and so we can manage some minor things, but major issues would require potentially an evacuation and definitive medical care on the ground. And so for the most part, I hope to remain unemployed as a physician up here.
Let's hope so. Jessica, this is your first trip to the ISS. What has the experience been like for you so far?
Yeah, it has just been a dream come true up here. Just starting with launch. No worries. Starting with launch was just absolutely amazing. Just getting to feel and hear and just be present in all of that moment, and kind of that culmination of joy and excitement was just awesome. And then get to be able to get up here and get to work on the ISS up here with my crewmates. Get to look out the window. The Earth is just even more gorgeous in person. It just has been absolutely awesome.
Tell me about what it's like to look out the window up there.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It's tough to describe, honestly, especially for me. So I am a geologist by trade, and so getting to see from this perspective, from this unique vantage point, sites that some of which I've seen on the ground, you know, with boots on the ground in the field, and others just seen in pictures and you know, orbital images that we've taken of the surface. It's just awesome to be able to see it from this perspective.
Jessica, I am a Fairview High School graduate myself. I know the whole Boulder community is so proud of you. Could you just, I know you talked with a bunch of students yesterday. Could you just describe that aspect of what it feels like to know that you're a role model for all of these kids in our community?
That is awesome. Go Knights. That's super exciting. And yes, it was such an honor and so fun to be able to talk with some Fairview students yesterday. And yeah, I think for me, it's just kind of a reminder of just the importance and just the factor that community has played in my life and helping me get to this point. I've had so much support from mentors, teachers, coaches from Boulder and elsewhere in my life, and I'm just so grateful for that support and encouragement in following my dreams.
You are also the first Black woman to spend time on an ISS crew. What does that significance mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's, an important milestone for our country, for our agency. And, for me, I'm just really grateful to be a part of a long legacy of Black astronauts that have come before me. And also, I think it's a testimony to the exciting future ahead. NASA's looking to do some exciting things with the Artemis mission coming up, looking towards the moon and eventually to Mars. And so I'm just really honored to be a part of that legacy.
This could be a question for either of you, maybe for Kjell, since this is your second trip up there. What's it like to spend time up there with folks from all over the world and from different countries?
Yeah, I'll just start out by saying how excited we are to have Jessica on the crew as a geologist. My first time up here, looking back at the Earth, you see absolutely amazing sights on the Earth, and rock formations and geologic structures that are very hard to sometimes comprehend. And to have Jessica here with us to help interpret what we are seeing is really a unique opportunity. From an international partnership perspective, it is incredible to be able to be up here with really I think the best and brightest that a lot of our countries have to offer. And Samantha Cristoforetti is with us from ESA, representing Italy, and then we have our Russian colleagues as well. And I think it's a demonstration of what we are able to do when we work together towards peaceful means. And to have this space station operating for over 20 years, conducting science and research with contributions from scientists all over the world, I think is a real demonstration to what that cooperation can result in.
Second to last question for you. I know you rotate the Earth something like once every 90 minutes. Have you been able to see Colorado yet?
Absolutely. When we go around the Earth about every 90 minutes, we're traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, and so we're covering a lot of ground in that time. I think it's a little funny. We've become so used to technology that last time I was up here, when I was looking at the Earth, I just wanted to kind of push a button to bring little markers up. When you're looking at Google Maps, you can bring up the state lines and roads and all those things, because it can be very difficult to identify as we're flying, particularly over the west and southwest. It's really difficult to kind of know exactly where you are, whether you're in over New Mexico or Colorado, and so you start to develop an understanding of what the various states kind of look like. Obviously, Colorado has the Front Range and then the plains. Once you get into New Mexico, you start to see more volcanoes, and so that you start to build kind of a picture of what various regions of the U.S. Look like. But it always feels great when we're flying over Colorado.
Yeah, and I'll just add that one thing that's a good indicator that we are flying over Colorado, or that we just flew over Colorado, is the emails from our families and friends saying that they got to wave to us, they saw us flying over. So that's always super fun when we're able to interact with the ground like that.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you both so much for taking a few minutes from outer space to talk to us here in Denver, and best of luck on the rest of the mission.
Thank you so much.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the KDVR-TV, KWGN-TV portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from NBC News.
Station, this is Joshua Johnson with NBC News. How do you hear me?
We have you loud and clear. We're ready for the event.
Well, Kjell Lindgren, Jessica Watkins, thank you for making time for us. I know you've got a lot to do, doing backflips on the International Space Station and so forth. Could I just start with that? Jessica, this is your first time in space. What was it like for you learning to get around in space, learning to do things like a backflip in microgravity?
Yeah, I'm still working on the backflip part, but yes, it has been so fun. It's been challenging, but also one of the most fun parts about being up here is kind of learning how to think and translate and move in 3 dimensions. So learning to use the whole volume and use your hands to translate around. It's been really fun. At least I've got great teachers here.
Dr. Lindgren, is that one of the things that people, when they get to space, they most have to kind of acclimate to, is figuring out where they are literally in space? Or are there other things that the body goes through on its first space flight that might feel a little weird?
Yeah, moving around in this weightless environment is probably one of the biggest one. There are a whole host of things that are going in our bodies that are a little bit different, and weightlessness is actually just one part of it. We're in an environment where the atmosphere components, our carbon dioxide is a little bit higher. There's ambient noise that's a little bit different, but weightlessness is definitely a big part of it. And so our neurovestibular system has to adjust to that. Our cardiovascular system is adjusting to it. Our bones and muscles will start to weaken if we don't do something about it. So we have to exercise every day. There's a whole host of things that we've been studying for a long time and continue to get new data on. And that's a big part of the research that we conduct here on the space station, is actually, as subjects, scientists are studying blood and bone and all of those things to continue to understand the changes that we undergo being here in this weightless environment.
We got some great questions from some elementary school kids and from some of our viewers about what it's like for you to be up in the International Space Station. That last one came from Liam, who is 10 years old, who asked what else feels different in space other than zero gravity. I want to get to some of their questions as well, and some of my own. One of the key questions, I think, is just kind of how you spend your time. Nick, who is 10 years old, asked, what do you do at the International Space Station? And Jacob, who's 11, asked, what do you do for entertainment while you're up there? So maybe we combine those 2 questions, and you just tell us about what a day is like for you, how many hours you work, what do you do when you're not working, and that kind of thing. Dr. Watkins, could I start with you?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the coolest parts about being up here is that every day is pretty different. We kind of have the same structure during the workday, but what fills up the workday can be very varied, which keeps us on our toes and keeps things exciting. So that's nice. We wake up in the morning. We have a large meeting, kind of a conference, with the 7 of us on board, as well as with the ground teams. So teams in Houston and in Japan and in Munich and all across the world, in Moscow as well. So it gets all of us kind of on the same page and ready to go for the day. And then we kind of split off to do our different tasks. So we have lots of science that we're excited about doing on board, lots of different experiments that we are conducting. We have the honor and pleasure of conducting. And then we also have maintenance tasks. So fixing things up here on station, making sure that everything is in tip-top shape and ready to do the jobs that all the various equipment and systems are there to do. Then we also get to do fun things like talk to you all. And then in the evenings, what we like to do for fun is kind of dependent on each crew member, but we definitely like to have dinner together, talk about how our days went, just like the family that we are up here. And then we'll call home or watch a movie or things like that, just to keep ourselves entertained until it's time for bed.
Dr. Lindgren, let me get to a question from Victoria and Ciara about space flights. Since you've flown on a mission to space before, you were in a Soyuz spacecraft back in 2015, and now you're on a SpaceX spacecraft. This was the SpaceX Crew 4 mission. Victoria, who's 11, asked, what is your first thought when you get into space? And Ciara, who's 10, asked, are you nervous when you start launching off into space? So talk to the 2 of them, Victoria and Ciara, Dr. Lindgren, about what spaceflight is like and what it's like seeing the Earth from space?
Yeah, Victorians here. Those are great questions. I think the first thing that goes through our minds when we arrive on orbit is, wow, that was amazing. Because we have just ridden a rocket. Right at the end of that rocket flight, the G-forces, we weigh about 4.5 times our body weight. You really feel that acceleration, and as soon as the engine shuts off, you're immediately weightless, and you get thrown forward into your straps, and you're just, it's absolutely amazing. In terms of nervousness, I think that fear comes from things that are not understood, and so we trained for close to a year on launching in that spacecraft and really understanding all of the things that could go wrong and what we could do about it. And I think that really trains a lot of the fear out from that experience. I think that we all have some level of anxiety as we get onto the rocket. We're a little bit nervous because this is something new, and we know we've got a kind of adventure ahead of us. But I think that we all felt very confident about the rocket. We felt confident about our training, and really looked forward to that experience of launching and flying to the International Space Station and getting here to do the work that we're doing. And now we have that opportunity to look out the window and see the absolutely beautiful planet that we call home. And it's always amazing to look out the window and look back at the Earth where our friends and family live.
Dr. Watkins, a lot has been made of the fact that you're the first Black woman to spend extended time on the ISS. You spoke to my colleague Lester Holt about that. I'm sure that is not at the top of mind for you as you're doing your job on the ISS. Down here, issues like race and class and culture are very much top of mind. You have, I think, maybe the luxury of being a little bit further away. I do wonder, though, who paved the way for you. I had no issue being on television because I saw Black men anchoring the news. I thought, oh, I can do that. What did you see when you were coming up that led you to say, I can do that? Or did this career develop despite a lack of role models? What was that path like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that certainly up here we are pretty much 100% focused on the mission and on the job and getting the job done, and we certainly are here to do that as a crew. But you're right. Certainly, growing up, I had the pleasure, the luxury of having role models kind of paved the way for me. Particularly, I think about Mae Jemison and Sally Ride, astronauts that literally paved the way, literally opened the door for people like me to walk through. And also, I had lots of mentors and teachers and coaches, instructors along the way who, even if they weren't in this exact role, encouraged me along this path and supported me in my endeavors and my dreams. So I'm really grateful for that.
A few more quick questions before I have to let you go. Dr. Lindgren, we got a very good practical question from Nestor, who asked, when you have to reboot a computer on the space station, how does that work? It can't be like rebooting a computer at home. Is it safe to reboot systems if they fail? What do you do?
That's actually one of the great things about being up here is that there are a lot of things that are just the same as home. And so if we have a computer that's not working, before we call IT support on the ground, we will generally reboot it first, because that will be the question that we get first is, hey, did you turn it on or turn it off? And it turns out, just like back on Earth, that just powering the computer off and then back on usually fixes the issue. If it doesn't, though, we've got an amazing team of computer specialists in mission control that when we have computer issues or internet connection issues, that we've got folks on the ground that are helping us figure all of those things out. It's amazing to be a part of a team with such a wealth of experience and expertise to be able to rely on those folks when we have issues.
I love the fact that even though you are so far above Earth and we are here on the surface, that a call with IT tech support still is exactly the same. Did you turn it off and did you turn it back on again? That, if nothing else, gives me hope. Dr. Kjell Lindgren, Dr. Jessica Watkins, what an honor. Thank you both so much for making time for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants from KDVR-TV, KWGN-TV, and NBC News. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.